Hello everyone, welcome back to this Voiceflow tutorial. In the previous tutorial we took a look at how to create a simple chatbot that takes user feedback from a restaurant, but in this case we're gonna create a chatbot that can receive users' orders, right, and then help place those orders. So the simple architecture that we have in front of us basically explains it. So the user interacts with the chatbot, right, and the first process, right, is perhaps the chatbot greets the user, and then the user it then asks the user what would the user like to eat, right? Then the chatbot would send an API request, a GET request, right? We're going to work with GET API request in this video. Sends it to the Google Sheets that we have, and then we get a response, right, with the menu, right? And that menu goes straight to the user. So the user makes his or her choice from the menu, and then some other information is gathered, like the name of the user, so the name that the order should be tied to, basically, right? And then the order is then sent to the chatbot, and then the chatbot sends that order using the post API request that we saw in the last tutorial to the order sheet. So in this case we're using two Google Sheets and a new, like a GET API request, right? So this is the simple flow that we're gonna be implementing, right? I hope it makes sense. And yeah, without further ado, let's head to our Voiceflow canvas. Again, we create a new project for this, so we can call this Restaurant Order Bot, something. Okay. Again, we are faced with this, so we just need to click here and delete, right? And then we can minimize this. So now let us begin. So the first thing that we want our bot to do is we want our bot to introduce itself and basically welcome the user. And that we can easily do with the message step. So I basically just had to reload the page again. Here now we can connect this here and then create our message. Say, hi, welcome to FoodieBot. Weird name, but okay. What meal would you like to order? Breakfast, lunch, or dinner? Now we can generate our variants from this, and yeah, we're good. Now before I continue, right, I didn't show us the two Google Sheets we'll be using. So the first one is the order sheet, right? So this is the order sheet here. It has the user's name, the order, that is the food that they've ordered, the price, total price of the food that they've ordered, and the exact time that the food was ordered. So that's the first sheet. And we also have another sheet, which is the food menu, right? It's a very simple food menu, right, with just a few examples so that we can use it. Now I think the next thing we should do is we should connect these two Google Sheets to our Sheetbest application, right? So let's do that now. So I'll just get this link. So this is the food menu. The food menu can remain on the viewer access. Why? Because we only need to extract the information from the food menu. We're not going to alter the food menu at any point in time. So we can just make sure this is anyone with the link, and then viewer access only. So you can now copy this. So now let's go back to Sheetbest. So log in. Okay, we already have one connection from the previous tutorial, but let's delete that because we don't need it anymore. Now we can create a new connection from scratch. So we can call this menu connection, and then we can paste the URL we copied here. Then we hit connect. So now we have menu connection. So that's one. Then the other thing that we want to do is to create a link for this as well. So hit share. So this is restricted, so I need to make it anyone with the link. And then since we're writing into this sheet, we need to make this editor, right? So I can copy this, hit done. Now we can go to Sheetbest again, create a new connection. Here we can call this orders connection. Then paste our link and connect. Grand. So we have the two connections that we need to our Google Sheets. Now, yeah, so we can then proceed. So the next thing after this greeting is that we want the user to select either of breakfast, lunch, or dinner, right? So that is, you want the user to give an input, right? So that means your bot should be listening, right? So now you have three choices here: button, choice, or capture, right? So in order to just simplify everything, right, it's easier for you to use buttons, especially when you have predefined options, right? So like you have like highly categorized and predefined options. In this case we have breakfast, lunch, or dinner, so we can just use buttons in this case, and then we'll just bring this here, right? Then what do we want to add here? We want to add the buttons. So we have breakfast, add another, lunch, add another, and dinner. That's all. And then we should also have a path for no match, right? In case maybe a user mistakenly types in the wrong option, right, or doesn't type in the correct option properly. So we can just put a message here to reprompt the user, right, to say something like, I only understand breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Can you please re-enter your preferred choice? Something like this. And then we can generate maybe 3 variants of this. Good. So yeah, we can then connect our bot to this, our previous step to this step. Now let me just zoom out a bit, right? Okay, great. So what do we expect now? We expect that these options here, right, when we select one of those options, we expect that it should be it should carry through, right? So the breakfast, if you select breakfast, it means that we're going to use breakfast to make our selection from the food menu, right? Let me hit done here. So if you look here now, the meal type or the meal itself, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, comes from this column here. So if a person selects lunch, so it is only lunch options that should be presented to the user, basically. So in that case, it would make sense for us to store the user's selection to a variable, right? So in that case, we can use the set step, right? So just get the set step. So you can just come here, variables set, we value or expression. In the last video we used an expression. In this video we would use a value. So we'll have to create a variable here. The variable we want to create is called meal type, right? You can give it a description if you want, but I don't need that. So that's meal type, and then the value will be breakfast, right? So that's the first one. So we can just connect the breakfast selection to this option here. Then here you can duplicate this and duplicate this. Great. So here now we can just simply change this to lunch, and then we can come here and change this one to dinner. Sorry. So now we can just join these points to these guys here. Great. So now we should probably test all what we've done so far, right? Because we've never used the button before, and it would make sense to just be sure that what we've done so far makes sense. So we can just easily print that in a message, right? So we can just connect all these to the message step. Right, so here, remember, each of these options is assigned to the variable meal type depending on what the user selects. So we can just simply say you selected and then meal type, right? And then now we can test this. So let's start from the beginning. So if we pick breakfast, it says you selected breakfast, meaning that it works. Great. So if you selected lunch or dinner, you'd get something similar, right? So okay, so the next step now would be for us to take this meal type, right, and then store it somewhere, which we've already done. Now that the user has specified the meal they want or the type of meal they want, we can then go to this Google Sheet and retrieve the information, right? So once you've retrieved the information from the Google Sheet, we can then filter it using the meal type. So how are we going to filter it using the meal type? We will see that in the next video. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. I hope it's making sense so far and I'm not moving too quick, right? Okay, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. See you in the next video. Bye.